Hello ladies, welcome to the Modern Goddess channel. In this video, I'm going to be explaining to you why you need to stop trying to be more feminine for your man or for a man in general, as opposed to being more feminine for yourself. So many women come to me trying to work on their femininity, trying to work on embracing a feminine role in their relationships, and then they can't understand why it's backfiring, why things are getting worse. And that's usually what happens when you are becoming feminine for a man instead of for yourself. Your relationship will usually get a lot worse before it gets any better. And one of the reasons for this is because you are not going by the order of things when it comes to a feminine journey. When it comes to learning how to become more feminine when it isn't something that you're used to, the order is embody, embrace, exude. And so many women skip the embodiment part. They skip the embrace part, which also comes with feeling empowered within your femininity. They skip those and they jump straight to trying to exude and emanate all of this feminine energy when that is not even who they are. And not only does that cause a lot of internal conflict, because now you're trying to implement practices that really does not yet align with the woman that you are, because you aren't her yet. You're just trying to implement certain practices. Not only does it cause confusion for you and internal conflict, but now it's frustrating your partner because things aren't consistent. He's just getting bits and pieces of your femininity here and there, as opposed to being able to enjoy you as a feminine woman completely, right? And so I'm going to give you a few examples of what being feminine for your man specifically looks like and how that can be detrimental. Okay, so for one, when a woman is trying to be a feminine woman for her man, as opposed to working on embodying feminine qualities first and embracing the role of a feminine woman first, when she skips straight to just trying to be feminine for him, exuding the femininity, she tends to think of feminine energy like a series of techniques, like it's a method. It's a tactic that she can use to get a change out of him. And so instead of saying, well, I'm just going to be a feminine woman, which by default is going to inspire genuine change in others because I am authentically a feminine woman. Instead of doing that, they think of it as, well, I'm going to use this feminine technique during communication, or I'm going to do this feminine gesture to show appreciation. So it's just a bunch of methods, tactics, and all of this stuff, as opposed to it being who she just is sincerely at the core, right? And so what tends to happen when you're using feminine techniques in order to get a change in him, in order to change the way he communicates to you, and in order to change the way he treats you, in order just to change him, what you end up doing is you end up being inconsistent, because you're only pulling that out here and there when it's convenient for you, or when you're trying to quote unquote manipulate him, because that really is what it is. It is manipulation. When you're using a tactic in order to change someone else, in order to manipulate the way a person treats you, that's what it is, right? And that isn't pure intention. And your man is going to notice that, and then he's going to get frustrated and he say, well, you're being inconsistent. And so many have heard that, where you're hoping to hear some type of positive reinforcement from your man. You're looking for some level of accolades from him. And so many men are refusing to do it because they're like, well, why should I praise you for doing this thing when you've only done it a couple of times? You're only feminine here and there, but you're not this woman every day, all day, right? And as disheartening and disappointing as it is to hear your man say that he isn't going to give you accolades or positive reinforcement, they're not entirely wrong for saying that when you indeed are not being consistent. And that, again, that's what happens when you're focused on trying to be feminine for him, and you're just like, well, what will work for him? What approach can I use on him? As opposed to, how can I just be a more feminine woman? So that's one way that it causes issues, is that it's going to lead to you not being consistent in your relationship. The second thing, and this kind of ties into this first one, when you're thinking of feminine energy or feminine journey as just a series of techniques and methods and tactics to get your way, then again, what you're doing is you're using it as a tool to get him to change. You're not doing it for your own growth, for your own well-being, for your own peace, for your own health, for your own personal development. You're doing it because you want him to do something different, right? And what tends to happen is that when you don't get the reaction that you're seeking, or you don't see the change in him that you were hoping to see, whatever it is you were expecting, then now you feel discouraged. And not only are you feeling discouraged, but now you're starting to question yourself. You're starting to think, well, what is wrong with me? I'm trying to be more feminine. I'm doing what he's asked. I'm being more submissive, or I'm trying to communicate more, or I'm being more respectful, or whatever it is that he's telling you is such a problem, but you're still not getting the emotional support that you want from him, or the quality time, or the reassurance, or the security, or whatever it is that you wanted from him, whatever it is that you were hoping to get by being a more feminine woman, you're not getting it. And so now you're questioning your value. You're starting to have all of these insecurities, all of these fears, all of these doubts, and now you're giving off this desperate energy. And what tends to happen is when you give off this desperate energy in your relationship, is that in your attempt to become more feminine in order to get what you want from him, you're now doing the complete opposite. You're now being the opposite of what he needs. Because when you are giving off desperate, insecure, fearful, doubtful energy, you are now draining him. Interactions with you, the interactions that he has with you, they're not pleasant, they're not peaceful, they're not positive, they're not pleasurable, they're none of that. And that is part of your role in his life, is to bring that peace, that positivity, that pleasure. That is part of that's one of the ways that you bring value into his life, right? And you're unable to do that if your focus is on what you're not getting from him. And again, that is what you're going to be focused on. You're going to be focused on what he isn't doing, what you're not getting, because your intention, the whole reason before you being feminine in the first place, is to get him to do those things. Like, he is at the core of all of it. Like, oh, I'm going to be more feminine. I'm going to use this feminine technique. I'm going to act feminine all this week so that he will do this for me. It's not, oh, I'm going to be feminine because I want to be a feminine woman, because I know how it's going to benefit me even outside of being in a relationship. Just what it does for me internally, what it does for your confidence, what it does for your spirituality, your intuition, what it does for you. It has nothing to do with that. It's just all about him and the reaction that you're going to get from him, right? And so again, what tends to happen now, like, you're giving off this desperate energy, you're focusing on everything that's going wrong, and once you start having this negative association and all of these negative feelings and negative thoughts, and you're forecasting negativity when it comes to the future of your relationship, it's all downhill from there. You understand? That is how you self-sabotage your relationship. And so what tends to happen is that you go to your man, and now your interactions are you just begging and nagging and whining, and the time spent together where you could be making that time quality time, you could be making the most of that time laughing together, joking together. You understand that your feminine energy is restorative, it's rejuvenating, it's recharging, it's healing. And when you are not being feminine for yourself, then what you end up doing is being the complete opposite. And now you are depleting this man. And so now he has no choice but to start pulling back from you, right? And so now the very things that you were hoping to get by being more feminine, he's giving you even less of it now, because you're directing all of your energy towards, again, him. But when you're feminine for yourself, then all of your efforts and your feminine energy and your practices and all of that will be first centered on you first. It doesn't mean that you're not doing anything for him, but it's going to be you. You're going to be the priority. And then that energy can go towards what makes you feel at peace, what makes you feel positive, what brings you pleasure, what makes you happy. And then that way you're able to do that for him, right? And you're not, your demand for emotional support, your demand for reassurance, your demands for quality time, they won't be as high. Because sometimes, again, when you're just focusing on being feminine for your man, your demands are unrealistic when it comes to what it is you're looking for him in terms of emotional support and all that other stuff that I just listed, the security, the connection. It's just unrealistic, especially for a man who's focused on being a goal-oriented, productive man who's trying to cover you, who wants to be responsible and all that stuff. Like, he can't be all of these other things for you, which is why you have to focus on being that for yourself first. Because if you're not doing what you need to do for yourself to be a peaceful, positive woman and all of these other things, then you're not going to be able to pour into him. You're not going to be that battery in his back. You're not going to recharge him. The interactions are not going to be pleasant, which is just going to lead to him going further and further away from you, distancing himself more, giving you less and less of what it is that you were hoping to get in the first place. So hopefully you feel me with that one, okay? So that is another way that trying to be feminine for your man backfires. It usually leads to him withdrawing and distancing himself, because your energy is going towards what you can do to get him to do something for you, as opposed to what you can do for yourself to be the type of woman that a man actually wants to spend time with, to be the type of woman that a man actually enjoys being around, right? So that's the second one. The third reason why you need to stop trying to be feminine for your man is because many women, especially if you're kind of new to being feminine, embracing a feminine role in a relationship, is because you start to think of femininity not just as a series of techniques, but as a bunch of tasks. Like, so many women say, well, Seralina, what can I do to make him feel more appreciated? And what can I do to make him see that I'm trying? And what can I do? And so many women focus so much on actions. Now, granted, I always give my clients challenges and things that they can actually do in order to demonstrate their appreciation, or in order to reciprocate in their relationships, right? Because if they've never seen these examples, if they never had that representation, they're not going to know, right? However, I never only give them things that they can do for their man. I always include things that they need to do for themselves. Because if you're not taking care of number one, then number two is not going to get half of what he needs. He's just going to get bits and pieces, and he is not going to be satisfied with that, right? And so what it looks like is that women will start to equate being a feminine woman to just a bunch of duties and tasks and chores, and they'll think, well, I need to cook for him, I need to clean for him, I need to do his laundry, I need to give him a massage, and they'll just think of things that they need to do, and they end up being in a state where they're constantly giving and doing, as opposed to being in a state where they are receiving and being, right? Which by default can kind of make you more masculine, which is the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. And so what tends to happen is that once a woman gets in this mode where she's constantly thinking, well, what more can I do? And what more can I say? And how else can I show him? What else can I do to prove? They get further and further and further away from simply being a feminine woman, right? And again, the value that you add, the value that you bring into a relationship with the mature, divine, masculine man has everything to do with the woman that you are. Most men know how to cook and clean for themselves. Do they appreciate you doing it? Yes. Does it make things much more convenient for them? Of course it does. But at the end of the day, how you make him feel is what's most relevant. Does he feel respected with you? Does he feel valued with you? Does he feel admired? Does he feel at peace? Does he feel satisfied? Does he feel your positive energy? Does he feel relaxed? How do you make him feel. And that is going to come by way of you being a feminine woman. It doesn't come by way of you doing a whole bunch of stuff and figuring out what more can I do? What more can I do? And over analyzing your role and your duties in the relationship. When you are a woman who has figured out what brings her peace, right? When you figure out what is going to help you mentally, emotionally, once you have figured that out and you have made that practice habitual for yourself, then now your energy, your demeanor, your aura, your communication style, everything about your presence is more peaceful. Right? You cannot be anyone else's peace until you're at peace with yourself. Until you become a woman who loves to play and laugh, and you're able to challenge your negative thoughts, you're able to be more optimistic, you're able to see the positive in everything as opposed to just honing in on what is not going right. Once you become that woman, then you can be a positive, pleasant, optimistic, bubbly, playful woman in his life. You're not going to be that if you're not doing it for yourself, right? If you are not taking time to bring yourself satisfaction, if you're not bringing stimulation to your 5 physical senses, then you're not going to build up this desire to have pleasure, meaning you're not going to be focused on pleasing him. Because pleasure isn't something that you are yearning for, because you haven't made that something that your body even wants, because you're not focusing on that, right? But you have to do that for yourself first, and then naturally you'll be able to be that for him. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, all that stuff, wonderful. That is wonderful. Yes, do that. But that is not going to necessarily bring him peace. That's not necessarily going to bring him positivity. It's not guaranteed to make him feel satisfied or pleased, right? That is why there are so many women who get so frustrated and they're like, well, I do all of this for him. I cook, I clean, I take care of the kids, I handle all of his stuff, I help him with his business, I help him with his work. And they think about all of the actions that they take. They think about everything that they're doing. And they never stop to consider, well, how do I make him feel based off of my presence alone? When he is with me and I'm not doing anything at all, how does he feel in those moments? Is it draining? Do all of our interactions just these long, drawn out conversations about how unhappy I am? Or are we laughing? Are we playing? Are we having intellectual, thought-provoking conversations? Are we satisfying each other? Are we having a good time? And that comes by way of who you are as a woman at the core. It has nothing to do with you doing stuff all of the time, right? And so that's another thing. When you're focused on being feminine for your man, you tend to concentrate on what you need to do. And you end up creating a dynamic where your husband or your man ends up being in the receiver mode, and you're the one that's always giving and doing and planning, and you're carrying the relationship on your back. That is so much pressure that you should not have to carry, right? So focus on being a feminine woman, not what it is you're doing necessarily, right? And the last one that I'm going to mention in this video, and this one it bothers me a lot, which I had to mention. I was going to leave it out, but I have to say this. When you focus on being feminine for your man, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, because now he feels like he has to monitor your feminine growth. If he knows that you're doing it for him, then he's going to feel like he should have this say-so in how well you are doing with becoming a more feminine woman, even though he knows absolutely nothing about embodying, embracing, and exuding feminine energy. Most men do not understand the process. Most men do not respect the process, which is why they are extremely impatient, which is why they have a very masculine approach to trying to motivate you to do whatever it is that they want you to do. Like they don't understand it. Society has made it so that it's necessary to be masculine. Society has made it so that it's almost required to be masculine, right? So men can find millions of examples or thousands of examples of masculine men who are successful, who doing great with business and fitness and properties or whatever it is that they're hoping to accomplish. They have so many examples out there of men that they admire, that they respect, and they have a system that they can follow. And so many women, we follow a lot of those same systems when we are also looking for success, right? But even outside of success, when we just want to survive, society says in order to survive, you have to tap into your masculinity. You have to know how to compete. You have to know how to be aggressive. You have to know how to assert yourself. You have to know how to be selfish sometimes. You have to know how to be grisly. You have to know how to just get out there, go for what you want. You have to focus. You have to know how to put your emotions to the side. You have to know how to do all of that to succeed, to survive, to accomplish your goals, right? Society has made it, I don't want to say easy, but society has made it to where that's a requirement. No one has to go against the grain. No one has to really unlearn a lot of stuff in order to do that, because it's everywhere you look. Anywhere you look, you're going to find tips on how to succeed, how to survive, how to make money, how to fight, whatever, right? There are not many examples of how to be solved, how to heal from trauma to become a feminine woman. Like, you have a lot of people who are talking more about it today, but as far as having representation of people who have actually lived it, it's nowhere near as many examples or representations as it is of how to be masculine, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because so many men, because they don't understand the process of it and they don't respect it, they make it harder on you because they don't get the healing process that comes. They don't understand you have to unlearn everything that society has told you about what it takes to succeed. You have to unlearn and reprogram yourself. You have to recondition yourself. You have to do all of this stuff, all this rewiring. Most men don't have to do a whole bunch of that when it comes to being more masculine. They just have to follow the path that society has already set for most of us. Like, it just says school or work hard or focus or get in the gym or what, like, it's just everywhere. It tells you what to do. There aren't a lot of instructions as far as being a submissive, feminine, cooperative, respectful wife when all your life you have been taught and shown something different, right? And so anyways, you put so much pressure on yourself when you're doing this for your man, because now he's taking his oblivious approach to how to succeed or accomplish what you want, and he's trying to force that on you, if that makes any sense. And so now he's like, well, you're still not doing this, or you're supposed to be doing that, and like, it's going to be so frustrating for you. You don't need somebody breathing down your back trying to make you feel bad about not being feminine like this. It took you 20, 30, 40, 50 plus years to become the woman you are today. You're not going to change in a day. You're not going to change in a week. You're not going to change in a month. That's not how it works. And again, a lot of men, they don't understand that, and then they just keep like putting all this stuff in your face, but you still need to do this, and why aren't you doing that yet, and you're not taking this serious, and you ain't never going to change it. I hear that from women so often, and it does frustrate me a little bit, you know, because I don't understand how anyone could think that it's easy embracing a feminine role in today's society. It is not easy. It's far from easy. But yeah, when you become feminine for him, that is what you do. You put him in a position to where he's pressuring you. He's monitoring everything you do. He has a lot of say-so in something that he really doesn't know much about. And that isn't healthy. You should be able to grow in your own time. You should be able to heal the way that you need to heal, unlearn whatever you need to unlearn. You know, he does not understand what it takes for you internally to go through this process. He does not understand your journey, right? And that is another reason why it can be very frustrating, because like you might take a different approach. Let's say that there's some conflict and you might take a completely different approach than what you usually took, but he's still upset. He's still not appreciative of it. He doesn't acknowledge it, right? And he's like, well, I'm not going to show you any appreciation or acknowledge this effort that you put in because it's not perfect, or it's not the way that he would like it to be. But he has no idea what you're feeling. He has no idea what it took out of you to do something different. He has no idea how many thoughts you were struggling with, how many feelings you were struggling with. He has no idea what it takes to be more feminine. He does not know. He knows the easy way. It's easy to be aggressive. It's easy to be impatient. It's easy to yell. It's easy to do all of it. It is not easy to be gentle, to be soft, to be calm, to be poised, to have all of this self-control. That is not easy. You know, to relinquish control, none of that is easy. If it were easy, men would do it. It's not easy, right? And so that is another reason why you should be feminine for yourself. Those of you who are single, you're at an advantage because you can work on this now without anyone, you know, bothering you about it. So when you get in a relationship, you'll already be there. For those of you who are in relationships, it is going to be much more of a challenge for you. But if you don't have a man already breathing down your back, but you just want to be feminine for yourself, then please work on it for you first, you know, because at some point he is going to say something about it, you know. So it's better for you to already just say, you know what, I'm doing this for me, for my health, for my spirituality, for my well-being, for my peace, because I want to connect with other women, because I want to feel confident, just for all of that stuff, right? And so yes, hopefully all of this stuff makes sense. Remember, embody, embrace, exude. Embodiment is where you focus on developing different habits and practices so that you actually are embodying feminine qualities. You're putting yourself in positions to be patient. You're putting yourself in positions to be compassionate, to be empathetic. You're challenging yourself to step out of your comfort zone and be softer, to be more poised, to be more positive, right? When it comes to the embrace, this is where you are now cherishing it, you're owning it, you're accepting it, right? And this is important too, because after you become more feminine, some women are like, well, yeah, Saralina, I'm more sensitive now, or I'm more vulnerable now, or I'm more receptive now, but they don't feel comfortable with it, right? So the embrace part is, as you are noticing these changes within yourself, you're now embracing it, you're owning it, you're accepting it, and you're feeling empowered within it, right? And that is what this month for February, all of my group sessions, if anyone would like to join, is about feeling empowered as a feminine woman in your relationship, especially if you're in a relationship with a man who has strong masculine energy. It's easy to feel like you don't have a voice. It's easy to feel inferior. It's easy to feel inadequate when that's the case. So this whole month is about feeling empowered in your femininity in a relationship. But that is what the embrace part, that's step 2, is embrace and feeling empowered within all of these new changes when it comes to this feminine energy that you have. And then step 3 is exude. It's emanating. This is where you are now demonstrating your femininity, and it's not because you're overthinking it or overanalyzing it. You're not contemplating on what you can do. It's because you're just a feminine woman, and this is how you move. Just genuinely, it's sincere, it's authentic. It's like, today I feel at peace, or I feel very pleasurable. I want to please my man. You know, it has nothing to do with the fact that, oh, I'm just so afraid that he's going to leave me, so let me do this real quick. Like, it shouldn't be like that. So hopefully this all makes sense. You don't want your man to pull back. You don't want to be inconsistent. You don't want to tap more into a masculine energy because you're in a mode of doing and giving, because you think femininity is a series of tasks and chores and obligations, right? You shouldn't be doing it because you're just focusing on some type of reward. Like, well, this is my reward for being feminine. He's now going to do this for me. That is not the case. That is not how it works. You are just setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. All right, so be feminine for you first, and then just allow that change to inspire growth in others naturally. Okay, peace and much love.